Hello, everyone. My name is George Cassiotis. I'm the managing director of Minusia, and I'm very excited to be welcoming you to this webinar by Minusia with a very special guest today. Before I, let the stage for Chris, I will make a small intro. We have Chris Panteli as a guest here with us today. I met Chris back in 2022, I guess last year, right? And we met at a mastermind in Cyprus, which was a very interesting experience. And I was really impressed by his deep knowledge on everything basically around HARO and how to get media mentions and build links using HARO, and also as an extension, digital PR. And we were connected, I don't know, a couple of months ago. We did an episode for the SaaS CSO, and we decided to, have Chris as a guest for a webinar where he will share with us, very in-depth strategies and tactics when it comes to HARO. So before we move any further, let me just say that say a couple of things about Chris. Chris is the co-founder of Linkifi. Linkifi is a leading HARO link building agency that offers done-for-you services with a focus on affiliate, authority, niche, SaaS, and other online web properties. He helps clients vastly improve their domain rating, traffic, EEAT, and SERP positioning by securing the best links on the web. Chris, the stage is yours.
Thank you, George. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. So I've put together a presentation. I'm going to try and keep it within the hour, but I do have a tendency to ramble. So I will keep doing time checks. So hopefully by the end of this, I'm going to show you, if you're a SaaS company, how you can utilize HARO, but also dominate HARO and get some of the best links on the planet for your business. Okay, so yeah, my name's Chris Panteli. I'm the co-founder of a done-for-you HARO link building service and called Linkifi. And we aim to get you featured in the largest publications on the planet by pitching on your behalf. So we've been doing this for a long time now. We have a lot of results, data, things that we know work, things that we know don't work, tips, tricks, and I'm going to try and share as much of that with you as I can today, so that when you come to do HARO yourself, or even if you look to outsource HARO to your team, you can try and win some of these awesome links which are up for the taking via the HARO platform. I'm going to do this in 5 parts. So firstly, I'm going to look at HARO and PR request link building, essentially what it is, and then SaaS positioning for success. So this is a core part of this presentation, because I think a lot of SaaS companies often get put off by HARO, and I'll explain why you shouldn't be put off and how you can position yourself to really succeed with HARO link building. Pre-pitching, so everything that you should do before you actually send your pitch into the journalist. Pitching HARO, the actual process of putting together a pitch, a good pitch, and then finally everything that comes after the pitch is sent. And this is equally as important as all the other steps, if not more so, because you've already done the work, and part 5 will show you how you can get links in just a few minutes with the work that you've already done. Okay, so I'll go through this quickly for those of you who don't know HARO and PR request link building. HARO we tend to use as an umbrella term for PR request link building, as HARO is the most prominent platform of this sort. HARO stands for Help a Reporter Out. So it's an online platform that connects journalists and bloggers and writers with topic experts, public relation professionals and business owners. And it allows experts to give commentary to journalists so that they can have expert quotes within their articles. It was founded in 2008, so it is getting on a bit now. Started as a Facebook group. It's now, as you see it now, ran by Syscon, and it will be changing again at the end of this year to a rebrand, something called Connectively. So this is quite a fast-moving space. We're not exactly sure how it will look, but the underlying principles will remain the same. You're going to be, they're going to facilitate the ability for experts to connect with journalists. As it stands, the system, when you receive emails, which is 3 times a day, Monday to Friday, apart from major US public holidays, there'll be a list of queries. You scour through them, you find the ones that you think are suitable, and you can respond. There is a premium version. You don't need it. You only need the free version. The premium version just has some basic keyword filters, but it's not particularly good in its current fashion. But obviously, when it moves to connectively, there may be a benefit to the premium version. I've covered how it works, the categories, and this is where I often think SaaS companies especially get put off: business and finance, high tech, general, health, biotech, lifestyle, fitness, education, travel. These are sort of the bread and butter categories. And you win backlinks simply by responding to journalists' queries as an expert, and hoping that the journalist picks out your quote from all the other hundreds of quotes that they may have received that day. And in doing so, you hope that they include your commentary within their article and then link back to your website as a credit for that quote. HARO wasn't specifically built for this purpose. As SEOs, we have hijacked it in order to get the backlink. I think it is important to remember that this is first and foremost an editorial exchange of expert commentary for media coverage. So the backlink in of itself is what we really want to get, although that isn't the primary focus of the journalist that's going to be quoting you. So it is important to be aware of how the whole process works and where the links come and where the links can be prevented from coming, which will often be at the editorial level of the major publications that may have a no link policy. And I will go through all of that today and explain how we can avoid pitching those domains in order to maximize our win rate for the holy grail, which is that backlink. Okay, so these are just some example graphs. I post these daily on Twitter from past clients that have done 5, 10, 20 link packages with us. And the red arrow is where the HARO campaign started. And then, as you can see, we have, after some time, a nice increase in traffic. And what's good about HARO is these links are 100% white hat. They're almost always homepage links, but they are there to build your domain authority, which should filter throughout the website and strengthen the work that you've done in all your other SEO activities, be it your content output or your on-page SEO. These backlinks will juice the whole domain and then give you that nice rise in traffic if you're doing all of your other SEO strategy correctly. So why HARO and press links? So like I said, they're editorially earned white hat backlinks. So these are links that you can't pay for on the biggest websites in the world, the websites that you will have heard of: New York Times, Forbes, to name just a few. And what's typically characteristic of a HARO backlink is very, very high DR, domain rating, or Moz's domain authority, a very high authority website with lots and lots of organic traffic. So we're talking hundreds of thousands, millions, tens of millions of monthly organic traffic. And these are massive brands and news publications. So what we're doing by getting these links is we are leveraging the proximity of that website to Google seed sites. So if you believe the theory that Google uses its page rank from the biggest sites on the planet, be it New York Times, then the sites that we'll be pitching, including the New York Times, and then even the sites just below that ring, these sites have got the page rank to pass because they're what Google is viewing as the most authoritative and trusted sites on the planet. The good thing as well about these links is they, in my experience, we've never dropped a link. News publications tend not to remove links. We've never experienced it. So these links are built to last, and these links will never, ever, ever hurt your brand or your view in the Google algorithm, as Google is never going to devalue the New York Times, it's never going to devalue Forbes, and therefore any links that you've earned from these websites will never negatively affect your website. So what they're good at is building your EEAT. So a really important fundamental part of the Google algorithm, especially now today, and probably just going to become more and more important as we go into the future. Okay, and these links are they enable you as a SaaS, as a business, to demonstrate both algorithmically to Google that you have experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness by being linked to from these massive websites, and also visually from a brand perspective as well. You can put these features on the front page of your website. You can demonstrate to your customers. You can align yourself with these brands that are much, much bigger than you are, and you can be in a good club. Okay, and that's the beauty. So these are just some of the links that you can get. This is one client that's been with us for a long time. I just thought I'd have this just scroll for a sec so you can see big DR, big traffic. You know, often tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and millions monthly organic traffic. A couple of recent campaigns. Again, some of the links that we've won for individual clients. So this is what you're aiming for, and this is what can be won. This can be won for you know, individually owned niche sites, right the way through to very niche specific SaaS businesses. And it's all about how you approach your strategy and how you attack the HARO queries. And a good strategy will enable you to target the right sites and win the right links. So the problem with HARO from the perspective of a SaaS company, it's become oversaturated and onset with AI spam in recent months. This is so fast moving, it's actually hard to keep up. Okay, but obviously AI is here. AI can be used in a good way. I've got that coming up later in the video. I'll show you exactly how you can use it. But what's good, quote unquote, not good for the journalists, but good for us, is people are spamming the hell out of HARO with spam AI answers. Okay, with no research, one click pitch produced and then sent straight to the journalist, probably not even checked. And this is hitting the journalist's inbox all day, every day. And what's good is that does provide an opportunity, because that means we have more of an ability to stand out. So that's something else that I'll be going through. The other problem with HARO from the perspective of a SaaS company is often not thought of as traditionally sort of SaaS friendly, as in terms of opportunities, in terms of the broad categories available. And I'll go through that with you as well, how that's not true, and how you need to rethink your positioning as a SaaS company in order to attack the varying categories of queries across the HARO platform. Filtering opportunities with domains and publications. So it's time consuming, and if you don't have experience with HARO, then it can become a full-time job just looking at all of the available queries, all of the available websites. It could take you a few hours just to determine if the websites are any good. And then by the time you've done that, the next lot of emails are coming in. So that's something which I can show you how to streamline and make super efficient as well. There is a long lead time on HARO links features going live. Sometimes you won't win a quote. Many times you won't win quotes. So there is a lot of stuff sent in without a lot of reward. And if you do win a pitch, it may go up in a week or 2 weeks. The longest best link that we ever won was a do follow on TripAdvisor. And from the first email pitch that we sent to the journalist to that link going live was about 6 months. It is varying, but this is why I think HARO is a great system to have as a continual strategy built into your workflow or your team's workflow. As these links compound, your efforts compound. Sort of the more and longer you send these pitches in, the more reliable the link win rate and velocity becomes. And it is resource intensive, which is why we started Linkifi. But it can be done on your own, which is what I'm going to show you today. Okay, so it's a great time to be doing HARO, like I said, and you don't want to miss on the opportunity with all of the AI content being thrown at the journalists, with publications looking to produce even better content in order to stand out in front of the AI content. They're looking more and more to source and quote experts, and that is where you can start winning these incredible links. So SaaS positioning for success. This is the first part of the presentation, and let's discuss why and how you can position your SaaS company in order to win these backlinks. So HARO categories are traditionally in a few main areas. So the main categories on the emails that are received 3 times a day, 5 days a week, is business and finance, high tech, travel, lifestyle and fitness, and then general. And SaaS companies are often put off thinking that the queries aren't particularly suited to their industry or their expertise, as obviously SaaS businesses vary greatly, but they're normally very niche specific in what they do. And it is sometimes hard to see the broader context of that SaaS company, especially in terms of very niche specific HARO queries. So what we can do is we need to think about how we position the SaaS company. Okay. So there are two main ways to overcome this problem. It's the position of the expert or the position of the SaaS. And you can attack this one or both of these ways. I would suggest doing both. It will be a little bit more resource intensive, but this is the absolute best way to maximize the number of available opportunities that come from the HARO queries. So the first way to look at it is the expert. HARO is all about expertise, and the journalists that use the platform want to quote experts. So what they don't want to quote when they put their query up, whether or not it's a gardening query or an email marketing query, or a lifestyle fitness query, or a SaaS growth tool query, okay? What they want to quote is an expert, a verifiable expert, preferably with a LinkedIn profile, with visibility, and somebody with that makes a comment which resonates with the journalist, but also is speaking from a position of authority. And any SaaS company will have a myriad of expert personnel on their team. Okay, so all SaaS companies will have developers, security experts, HR, finance. All of these experts, or a mix of these experts, will be working for or within that SaaS company. And it's these expert profiles that you want to leverage for one half of the HARO queries, okay? Because within those HARO categories, the business and finance, the high tech, you will get questions that will be much, much more suited to, for example, a tech developer, people working in AI, human resources is a massive category, finance as well, and then obviously more general business, although that's becoming less and less. But those core areas, okay, in terms of like tech, developers, HR, finance, security, and AI, these core areas are very, very, very prominent on HARO. And if you have somebody within the SaaS company with these expertise, and these expertise can be much broader than that. So even just somebody on the SaaS company that went to a good university and has a good cybersecurity degree or a developer degree, or even just lots of experience in development, this profile should be one that you utilize and then start looking for those queries in HARO that align to the expertise of that person on your team. Okay. And that person on your team will be positioned as X person working for this SaaS company. And if you win the quote from the HARO query, then you have a high chance that the journalist quoting the expert in their story will refer to them by name, okay, with their expertise representing the SaaS company for which they have pitched from. And that is where the backlink comes. The second way to position this is to look at the broader expertise, the broader niche of the SaaS company. So if the SaaS is in a broader niche, so for example, if you have a SaaS which is operating within the fitness industry, if you have a SaaS which is operating within the gardening industry, if you have a SaaS which is operating in the travel industry, then you want to onboard onto your SaaS company somebody with those expertise. Okay, so a fitness expert, a personal trainer, dietitian. If it's a SaaS in the travel company, a travel expert. And these people can be brought into your company either internally, or you can hire somebody, and I will talk about how you can do that. But this person just needs to have some visibility on the SaaS company's website. So be it just 2 or 3 pieces of contributed content with an author profile on the website or on the about page. That is enough to satisfy the journalists looking to verify credentialed experts. And if you have that person also pitching HARO on behalf of your SaaS company, then you can broaden your ability to answer those wider category questions as well. So if it's a SaaS company operating in the fitness industry, a fitness SaaS of some sort, there are lots and lots of fitness specific queries. Now, you don't want the person from your company from number one pitching the fitness queries. Okay, because it doesn't make sense. A tech developer or a cybersecurity expert answering questions about fitness doesn't make sense, which is why you need those dual profiles, because it does make sense to have a fitness expert working or contributing to content for the fitness SaaS, okay? Because it just makes sense, and the journalist will understand that, and the journalist will quote the fitness expert representing the SaaS company and link back. Okay, so this is two ways that you can broaden your approach to answering HARO queries. So the position of the expert. So you need an expert profile from your company, positioned prominently on the about page. Okay, the journalists now are checking more and more. It's not a very stringent check, but they are checking. Okay, and so many people are pitching HARO are falling short of this, which means you are already at an advantage if you can make these simple tweaks to your strategy. You just need to have the expert positioned on the about page, okay, or somewhere visible on the website, okay? Make them a part of your SaaS URL, okay? So be it your main website / authors / and then the expert's name, okay? 2 or 3 pieces of content as a contributing author is the easiest way to do this, okay? And then your HR queries are one of the easiest to win for your HARO categories. If you're struggling to see, if your SaaS isn't in a more broadly defined niche, and if your SaaS doesn't have anybody, or you don't feel the ability to source somebody internally, and you don't want to source somebody externally that's in the more tech focused expertise, then human resources is one of the best ways. Okay, either if you have a human resources person, or if not, then you can take somebody on. There are lots of human resource queries on very, very big publications, and this could be a really great way to get started. So consider tech developers, cybersecurity, AI, all of these more technical expertise and specialities. And if you don't have these, then HAROfy, okay? This is something that we offer as a service, but you can 100% do it yourself. And the way that you do this is you leverage and borrow the expertise of somebody else. So I touched on this a moment ago. But whether or not it's from category 1 or category 2, if you haven't got an expert of any sorts, then you can hire a credentialed writer to produce 2 or 3 pieces of content under their authorship and have their byline and their author profile on your website. You need to pre-arrange with this contributing author to get their permission to pitch HARO under their name. This is usually a relatively easy sell. They'll often be freelance writers, possibly retired from the position of expertise that you're looking at, be it a fitness expert, or they are an active in that industry, but they are looking to make additional income from their writing. So first and foremost, they will be interested in taking your money to hire them as a writer. Secondly, asking for their permission to pitch HARO is normally a relatively easy sell, because the end result for them is they get featured in massive publications. So it bolsters their writing credentials and their credentials overall. And it also massively benefits you as a company, because once you start pitching HARO under their authorship and their expertise, when the journalist links back, it will be linking back to your website just under the name of this newly onboarded author, expert author, who is on your website. So it's a win-win-win, but you just need to make sure that the person that you HAROfy with has visibility on the website, verifiable credentials, LinkedIn, recognizable expertise. But this is really, really, really relatively easy to do, okay? And it works. That's the key point. Okay, so position of the SaaS. Determine your broader industry. Position the expert from the specific industry. So like I said, think what industry your SaaS is in, and then find the expert from that industry. So if you have a SaaS in fitness, health, then find a personal trainer, nutritionist, etc. And if you don't have this person, then HAROfy this expert onto your site. Or you can use our services, we can do this for you, but you can easily do this yourself, okay? They just need to have clear visibility for the journalist to verify their credentials. Okay, all making sense? All, are you still there, George? Maybe I'll do a quick time check.
Everything is very, very interesting. One question I have, I don't know if people who are listening to this have any questions. If yes, please feel free to drop them in the chat, or by clicking on the questions button. One question I have, just to make this clear, when we are talking about HAROfy, essentially we are talking about working with a person who is not an employee, right?
Yeah.
Using that person's authority or name in the industry to work with us and essentially serve as, you know, the persona, the real persona though, under whom we will pitch journalists on HARO, right?
Yeah, exactly. So this is almost your last resort if you don't have in-house expertise from existing staff from the first bucket, which is like your tech, your developer AI, these sorts of expertise that are very likely to have in a SaaS company. And then the second area of expertise would be the broader niche for the company. And if you have somebody on staff, then you can utilize that person, that profile as well. HR is like a catch-all. So you would hope that you would have HR or somebody that could be positioned as a HR person for the SaaS company. And then if you have none of that, then HAROfy is a great way to borrow the expertise of somebody else with their permission. It also works wonders for your company with the EAT in terms of Google's algorithm, because, for example, if you are a SaaS company operating in the fitness industry and you get an expert fitness instructor or a qualified nutritionist and you onboard them onto your website via 3 or 4 or 5 pieces of content under their authorship, that is instantly going to demonstrate EEAT to Google's algorithm in terms of your SaaS from the fitness perspective, okay, from the industry for which it operates. And then you can also pitch HARO for those fitness queries and win the link back to your SaaS URL. And this works.
That makes perfect sense. Chris, if you don't mind, can we do one more question before we move forward?
Yeah,
we have a question from Nicholas. Hello, Nick. In your experience so far, what's the do follow to no follow ratio from link building through HARO? I guess you will touch on that later, but if you have an answer now, we would love to hear that.
I would say probably 50-50. It all depends on the editorial guidelines of the publications. So that tends to always come down from the top. The biggest websites in the world, the absolute biggest websites, tend to have a no follow policy, which you can't get around that. Some websites, they'll tag as no follow, but they'll convert it to a do follow. I'll show you some strategies on that coming up. But I think it's really important to leverage the brandability of the massive publications, and it makes it look, I mean, it's a natural form of link building anyway, but it's just going to show as well in your backlink profile a healthy mix of do follow, no follow. I wouldn't worry, as long as you've got massive DR, massive organic traffic, you're going to be getting just as much value from both sets of link types. Make sense?
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah,
it makes for me. Let us know in the chat if it makes for you as well, Nick. And I guess we can move forward.
Okay, right. Let's so some more example target domains. So this is a client link win that I took from at one of our clients, and this was from the first area of expertise. So we actually had a developer from this SaaS company, and these were the links that we managed to win. So you can see there are some slightly, more in like websites. We did win some websites within the broader niche. I think the Ideal Homes one was one, but as you can see, there's a lot of a sort of tech website. So that How Stuff Works website was, I think, just a really, really simple query about what to do if your computer feels hot. Anybody with any sort of, developer tech expertise can answer that. We did a good quote and we won that. And then obviously CS Hub is a good website. The Sun was a fantastic link for us. Best Colleges was a really good one. HuffPost as well. Mail Butler. So some great links, but these were all from the profile of somebody that had the tech expertise from the SaaS company. And then flipping that, this is somebody with the expertise specifically in the fitness niche. So this was a fitness instructor, and you can see from the links they're a lot more niche specific. So Well and Good, Pop Sugar, Very Well Fit, Mom Junction, Parade, Salon. But again, all very, very good links. So high DR, high traffic. So these are the sorts of links that you can win from either of those sorts of profiles. And obviously, ideally, you would pitch both profiles and win both sorts of links. Okay, so that covers the first part. I was going to stop after each part, but I suppose we just stopped then. So good to carry on, George?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so pre-pitching. So this is everything that you want to do before you even send the email to the journalist. Okay. So once you've decided on your expert or two experts, depending on what approach you're going to take, you need to develop the profile and make it track through. So this is what I was talking about earlier. It has to have visibility on the about page on the website. The expert that you are using needs to have a LinkedIn profile. Okay. Ideally, they've had previous features. Okay. They've been featured elsewhere previously. If they haven't, then you just begin pitching without this element, and then you add as you go, as you start to win more and more features. You also need a flexible pitch template, and I'll explain more about that as we go. And then you need to make sure you have your core template elements. So the way that we do this for our clients is we build a pitch template. This is something which can be used to every pitch. And the reason I say it needs to be flexible is because every HARO query is different, and there will need to be some flexibility within that template depending on the query. And then you can begin to pitch. So this is an example. We have a personal finance website. This is the pitch template we use for my personal finance website. And we've won some massive links for Life Upswing, New York Times, Forbes, Business Insider, Express, many fantastic links. And which is these four core elements that are fundamental to a good pitch template. So obviously you want to have the standard name and introduction, but you need to have the website in the opening paragraph. Okay. And as you can see, there's the website and it's hyperlinked to. So that's core element number one. Core element number two is the expertise and credentials of the expert. So as you can see, I've got that in the third line, degree in economics from the University of Liverpool. So this is a finance website. I am qualifying myself as an expert in the template to every query that I send by explaining to the journalist why I have authority to speak on a financial related subject, because I have a degree in economics from the University of Liverpool. Okay. Element number three is previous features. So this gives instant credibility to you as a person if you have been featured in other big publications prior to your pitch being sent to this new journalist. And there, if you have yet to be featured, or if the person you're using has yet to be featured, then it's okay to just leave this blank. And then as soon as you get your first good feature, start building out 2, 3, 4 of the biggest features that you've had in this third element of the pitch template. Element number 4, at the end, you must have, okay, again, a link to the website, okay? Give the journalist 2 opportunities to see and copy and paste your link, okay? And then you want a link to your headshot. Journalists will often ask for headshots, but put that into your pitch template so it's there, it's ready for them to take. It limits the work that they have to do. Journalists don't like to do much work, or they like to do as little work as possible. And in order to do that, make their jobs easier, give them the link to your headshot. And finally, give them the link to your LinkedIn profile. Okay. If the journalist wants to verify you, if the journalist has 2 equally good pitches from 2 equally good experts, and one email has the LinkedIn linked profile in the pitch template ready for the journalist to click, and the other one doesn't, the journalist is most likely not going to bother taking the time to find this person's LinkedIn profile when they can just click on this person's LinkedIn profile. So put it in the template. It's there for them. It's easy. It means they can go and check you out, check that you're a real person. You haven't been creative, your image with Midjourney. You're not a fake AI bot. They can see you're real. They like your quote. They're going to quote you and give you a link. Okay. So those are the main elements, and these are the main elements that you need to decide before pitching. Okay. And this is the query type, the query requirements, and the domain. These 3 things need to be decided before you send your pitch. Okay. This is where you can massively reduce your workload, massively increase your efficiency, and massively increase your win rate. And this is where we have seen, as we've scaled and we've honed our systems, this is the key focus for us now as an agency. And this is something which means you are going to prevent yourself from sending wasted pitches to publications that don't link. wasted pitches to publications where the query doesn't match your expertise, where you can't satisfy the requirements, and then fundamentally where the domain is not worth getting a link from. Okay, so these elements must be carefully considered before you pitch. So query type. We can break down the different types of queries into 3 main buckets. And it's important to understand the query type before you decide whether or not you should answer the query. Okay, often it will either be informational, experience, or product. And what's important is we want to see if we can inject topical relevancy within the query. Okay, now this does slightly vary depending on personal preference. Okay, some companies we work with, they just want as many good quality links as they can. Topical relevancy is less important to them, and that can be done as well. But if you want to stay more on brand, which is often much more important for SaaS companies rather than sort of affiliate sites, then you will often not have an obvious topical relevancy within the query itself. Okay, so an informational query asking for, sorry, a product query asking for product recommendations for a birthday present for Father's Day, sorry, let's say. You may think that that sounds completely out of, irrelevant to a SaaS company. Why would we be pitching that? But often massive publications do sort of product roundups, and they're looking for a bit of expert commentary to provide suggestions on products that they can include in their expert in their like affiliate posts on birthday present recommendations, Father's Day recommendations. Now we can inject topical relevancy into the commentary that we provide on the products that we recommend. So a SaaS company operating in the fitness industry could recommend a fitness product, which allows you then to talk about fitness when you are recommending that product. And then when they link back to and include your quote in your commentary and link back to the site, you have that sort of fitness contextual copy around your link, and you have injected that yourself. Okay, so we've reverse positioned the topical relevancy of the query because we've identified the query type as a product type. If it's an informational based query type, then we need to see that if the query itself is asking for information on a subject which is topically relevant to us as a brand or our broader niche. And experience. This is in many ways the easiest one to do because they're looking for your experience as an expert in whatever it is the query that they're talking about. And within that, you are then able to inject topical relevancy, if you can, about your broader niche, be it fitness, nutrition, health, or if you are answering from the first bucket, which would be the sort of tech expert, then you can also do it with the experience, as long as the query itself is asking for experience on a subject which you believe is topically relevant to your company. Again, there is room for maneuver within that because there are some excellent link opportunities, features available on massive websites where this may be less important, less relevant to you, especially the broader business queries where they're just asking for people that have been successful in business or business advice for people starting out. But you can still aim to get this relevancy in depending on the different type of query type. Then you need to determine if your credentials can satisfy the query. The journalist will always specify who they're looking for. And then they will also ask for requirements as well. Do not waste your time answering the queries where your profile, the expert profile that you're pitching as, can't satisfy these requirements. Because if the journalist has taken the time to put in black and white what they want, then they will not look outside of that. Okay. And then you also need to assess the likelihood of getting the link itself. So I can explain that now. So this is an example of an informational query. Okay, what are the best gold EFTs? And this is for a website called Consumer Affairs. This is a big website, very big DR, high traffic, a very authoritative, serious website. And the query is very simple. It's just asking 4 questions. And this is where you can assess what it is that the journalist is looking for. So when the journalist is asking for relatively simple questions, and the questions themselves don't require any sort of experience, product suggestions, it's just very straight questions, you need to determine the likelihood that you can get that link. Okay, and for example, I'll go through the 3 steps now. So first of all, assess if we can inject topical relevancy into this response. So if we stay as my example as a fitness SaaS, then we can't really answer this question from the perspective of a tech expert or maybe a business expert, but that's a stretch. And especially on a serious website like this, with 4 very straightforward questions, the journalist is looking to leverage the expertise of the person that they quote. So this person needs to be a real finance expert to get quoted. And that's obvious from the question type, the query type, which would mean that we would straight away not be looking to answer this query. So our credentials don't satisfy the query, and then the likelihood of them linking to us is very low. So this is one that can be missed just by visually looking at the query itself. So an experience query. This one is for HuffPost, and they're looking for marketing leaders using AI to improve their performance. So this one is a lot more interesting. Okay, so it's a good domain. We can assess if we can inject topical relevancy into this response. We most definitely could. Okay, we could definitely be using AI to improve our performance. Most SaaS companies are involved in some form of marketing. Determine if the credentials can satisfy the query. Well, you know, if you're a SaaS company that's involved in high-end marketing, which you most likely will be, then you're a serious person. You have these credentials. You should definitely be answering this query. And is there a good chance that HuffPost would link to you and your credentials and your source? Well, yes, because you satisfy the first 2 queries. It's a good website, and the requirements is just asking for company name and LinkedIn. And remember, we have those elements in the pitch template. So this one is good. It's a go. Product. Okay, this one's looking for a coffee expert for a real simple article. So assess if we can inject topical relevancy. Remember, we're going to remain as a fitness expert. So fitness, coffee, health, the 2 definitely sort of work well together. And they're looking for a coffee expert. What does that mean? It's not a credentialed qualification that's needed. Anybody could be a coffee expert, and I would suggest that a fitness instructor or a nutritionist, the person that we're pitching as, would definitely have an insight into this topic that the journalist would find interesting, reliable, and useful. And those credentials themselves would satisfy this query, and then the likelihood of a link is high. So this one is good. So you can do this as a visual test each time on the query type, but the requirements is where you need to look as your final port of call. This is where it will ask you, make sure that you can definitely satisfy what the journalist is asking for. But this is where we can be flexible as long as it's still meeting the requirements. So coffee expert, okay, broad, okay, as a fitness or nutritionist expert representing the SaaS company, we could definitely be a coffee expert. If it was asking for a qualified credentialed nutritionist, then we couldn't satisfy these query requirements because that's outside the scope of the expertise that we have for the profile. I won't go through the rest of that example. I used the nutritionist expert already. Now, this is where it's going to save you a lot of time. The domain, the actual website we're pitching. So the single biggest factor, this will 10x your HARO success. There is a lot of garbage on HARO still, okay? It's not a curated or particularly monitored service, although they are getting slightly better at removing spam requests from spam websites. And I think that will change as well when we go to Connectively. I believe that will probably become a paid plan, a mandatory paid plan rather than a freemium model. But until we get to that, we're with the current system, and there is a lot of spam websites. Okay, I say a lot. There's not a lot. There's enough to means it wastes your time if you have to scour them without any assistance or prior knowledge. So being able to quickly and effectively determine which domains you should pitch is one of the simplest ways to reduce your workload, increase your win rate. You'll be sending less pitches to more targeted websites, and those websites will be the ones that you want to win links from. So your domain selection is vitally important to improve your efficiency and win rate. Not all HARO domains are created equally. So the first thing, DR, is the first thing to check. Then organic traffic. And then we also want to have a good sense of the historical way that the publications are tagging those links when they do link to a source. So DR, this you want to be high, obviously. We also want to see that coupled with high organic monthly traffic. The exception to this usually is actually SaaS businesses, okay, SaaS companies or real companies. So real companies sometimes have high DR, slightly lower traffic, and this will be because they're a real business, but they haven't invested maybe in their content output, their SEO, and their organic rankings. But you still want to get a link from this website because it's not going to be a toxic link. It's a real business. It's a real website. Okay, that's the exception to the rule. Normally, we want to see lots and lots of organic monthly traffic and very high DR. Link type. The most important one here that we want to know is if they historically don't link, because these websites we want to blacklist. We don't want to pitch these websites. It's a waste of time. Okay. I have a free resource which I've left here, and this is our in-house metric database of the websites, whether or not they historically do follow or no follow. So if the website is in this database, then it means that you can pitch it. And then we also have whether or not they have historically do followed or no followed. You can see the metrics, the DR, and the traffic. And then we also have a follow-up column as well, which is where you can see historically if that website has linked, no follow, have we been successful emailing or following a number of strategies to ask that publication to convert that to a link. And if we've been successful, it's a green tick. So this is a super useful resource, which you can all have for free. And this gets updated as we go along. So this is the best way to start. I would also suggest, I did a podcast recently, another really good piece of advice that I would give if you especially want to really hone your efforts on HARO, is find 2, 3, 4 of your main competitors and try and see which HARO links they have. Easiest way to see this is if you can find a competitor that's got a press badge, some of the biggest features that they've got, these big features here will often be HARO links, okay? Because this is the only way you can tend to get links from these big publications, okay? And then look at those 4, 5, 6 logos that they've got on their front page. Those are the websites that they've successfully won links from via HARO. So you go onto HARO, you pitch those domains as well, you go and get those links for your SaaS company as well. That's probably the easiest way to get started. If you want to get more in depth, then you've got this resource here, which you can have access to for free, which can give you an edge again. And you'll want to target a healthy mix of high authority, do follow and no follow. This is what we suggest. It's good for a natural backlink profile. And often the best links in the world, they typically, they won't give you a do follow link. So it's up to you to decide, you know, what your personal preference is. But for me, you know, if I was running a SaaS company and, you know, I was able to try and get a link from Forbes, if I had a SaaS business in the health industry and I could get a link from Healthline, these websites often they no follow, but that's a link I wouldn't turn down. So I would still target those sites. Some domains, typically, they don't link at all. Like I said, they should be avoided. Some domains often forget to link. Okay, and that's where the follow-up section comes. Now, that will be from a journalistic level, not an editorial level. So sometimes the journalists will just forget to put the link in. They're not SEOs. They don't really think about links. They're thinking about what they're writing. So if that happens, you've got a really good shot of getting that link, that unlinked mention converted into a link. And that's because the journalists forgot to put the link in. Sometimes the journalist will put the link in and tell you that they've linked to you. When the article goes live, the link's been removed. That's happened at an editorial level, okay? That's happened from somebody from the publication who probably is an SEO, and they probably have an in-house no link policy. The chances of getting that turned into a link is very low. Some domains will often link to a LinkedIn profile, okay? This can sometimes be turned into a link back to the website. This needs to be done with a follow-up email or a simple email, okay? And it's worth knowing which domains do this. And again, that you can have access to in our database. Some domains are just simply terrible and should be blacklisted. Okay, these ones are normally obvious. High DR, low traffic. Okay, other websites you can just tell by looking at them. They look terrible. Okay, they have you haven't heard of them either. What we want from HARO is websites that you've heard of. Okay, industry websites that you've heard of, news publication websites. Okay, end of that section. George?
Still here.
Okay.
Everything looks very interesting to me. And I think people will also appreciate the Notion, list that you, will share with us. Keep going. It's getting more and more interesting. We are running sort of when it comes to time though, but I guess, people won't mind, staying with us a few more minutes to cover everything, because it's very interesting. And I mean, we have some more things to go through. So keep going.
Okay, I'll try and go through quickly, but not too quickly. Okay. Right, pitching HARO. So you now have you've got the perfect profile. You've given yourself as a SaaS company the maximum number of opportunities to get the most number of links. You have a system in place to select the best domains, so you are going to vastly increase your win rate. So you have everything in place. Okay, this is the hard work. Now you just need to create your pitch and stand out in front of the journalist. So in order to write the perfect pitch and win the quote, you need to be making sure that you are answering the query and satisfying the requirements of the query. I'm going to go through AI, ChatGPT, and linguistic nuances. Okay, quote bait. So I can tell you this from us as an agency, what we see time and time again is when an interesting turn of English, a turn of phrase, an interesting linguistic nuance within a piece of text has been used that stands out, that is often the exact line that the journalist will quote. Now, that doesn't mean to say that the entire pitch that you produce needs to be Shakespearean in the way that it's put together, but it does help to have one Shakespearean element. So one element which is interesting or different or unique, a really interesting use of the English language to explain an idea maybe, or to express an emotion on a thought. This is where you can really stand out in front of the journalist. And this is where the journalist will often quote that exact line. Okay. So what the journalists are looking for, we said, verifiable credentials, well-aligned expertise, informative, to the point pitches that answer all of the questions, and quotable lines. So like, I don't know if you remember when we were at school, the teachers used to say to us, when you do an exam, make sure you read every part of the question. Okay, answer every part of the question. The clue is in the question. It's the same with a HARO query. The clue is in the query. The journalist is telling you everything that they want to know. So you need to satisfy that by answering every part of what they've asked for. Okay, and you don't want to give them a 5-page essay, but you also don't want to be blasé and thin on the content and expertise that you're offering. So give them exactly what they want. Your verifiable credentials, okay, and your expertise is 1/3 of the equation, okay? The pitch itself is 2/3, and then that magical dusting of a quotable line, a linguistic turn of phrase is the third and final piece of the puzzle that brings the whole thing together. So you need to determine the connection between the domain and the query type. Okay, this is a really interesting part of HARO, which again will improve your win rate. Journalists are usually looking for one of two things. Okay, so you will have a journalist who is sourcing an expert for an article they're producing, and they're either looking to leverage the authority of the person they're quoting, or they want interesting angles where the credentials are less important. And what do I mean by this? So let's take The Guardian, for example. If The Guardian, which is one of the biggest news publications in the UK, was sourcing for an expert on credit card types, okay? If that journalist was asking what does APR stand for on a credit card? Now, that sort of question, the journalist knows the answer to that question. So why are they asking it? They're asking it because they want to put in their article somebody with really big credentials, because they want to make their article better with leveraging the authority of the person that they're going to include in that article. So that could be the head of HSBC. Okay, it could be, you know, a multi-million-pound investment banker. Okay? The chances of them quoting me from a small personal finance blog is very, 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 very low, if not impossible, because that's not what the journalist is looking for. The other type is where the journalist is looking more for an interesting angle, some experience, an interesting take on an old idea maybe. And this is where credentials are slightly less important. Okay, and that comes down to the query types that we discussed earlier, but also just getting a sense of what it is that the journalist is asking for and matching that to the domain. So a very, very, very big authoritative domain that's asking very simple questions is often looking for very, very clearly defined massive credentials and expertise. And then we have more opportunities and more chances of winning when it's slightly broader questions, where there's more scope for us to give more interesting takes in our answers. And that's where we have the highest opportunity to win. So just quickly, this example here, annuity.org, it's a very serious finance website. And you can see the journalist has made it very clear here in the requirements that they want a CFP, CFA, CPA, CS, credentialed expertise only. Not me as somebody with a degree in economics and a personal finance side. Not credentialed enough. I shouldn't be answering this query. So determine the connection between the domain and the query type. Journalists are usually looking to either leverage the, I've been through that, sorry. Okay, so, right, example 2. Money decisions new business owners always regret. Much broader question. You can see that from the question itself. Much more scope to give an interesting answer. The requirements is just says seeking responses from business owners. So any SaaS company has a business owner, so we can answer this, and this is where we want to use our linguistic tone and give interesting ideas and a really honed pitch back to the journalist. Okay, so producing the actual pitch. You can use AI to research and craft, but journalists now are running AI checking tools, so it needs to pass the AI detection tools. So zero GPT, GPT-0, undetectable AI. This is so fast moving that I imagine that this presentation today will be our day in a few months' time. But now journalists, they're checking, okay? And they'll often put in their query as a requirement that they don't want AI produced content. So how can we utilize AI and pass these AI test tools and get in front of the journalists without being detected? Research is the easiest and best way. I'm using this AI now, as many people are in their day-to-day lives anyway. It's going to become a fundamental part of our lives as we move forward. So we may as well get used to it. We may as well start utilizing it because it's good. Okay. But what it can't do yet is produce completely undetectable content. Even if it can pass undetectably from the detectors, then it's still visually the journalist can pick this up. Don't forget, the journalist is a professional writer. So if they're reading pitch after pitch after pitch that's been produced by the same AI tool after the same AI tool, they can see this, they can sense it immediately. We have journalists that we interviewed in our course and they say the exact thing to me. So we can use it to research, to come up with ideas, albeit these ideas will often be fairly generic, but still it's a good starting point. But the best way that I think you can use AI is to do your own research, have your own expertise, okay? And then I'm going to show you now just a really quick 2-minute video how I think the best way to utilize this for you and your SaaS company when you have your expert producing pitches.
Chris, sorry, a question I have, like in the first step, was it like you were dictating or was it something?
Dictating.
So text, so speech to text.
Speech to text.
Then edits, and then I guess, refinement, testing it for like AI content in AI content detection tools, and that was the process in a nutshell.
Sorry, George. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. And what that's going to do is it maintains your individual authentic tone. So the journalists are checking AI content 100%. Every pitch that comes into HARO, a lot of them are checking. So if you're just going to put prompts into an AI and then get it to generate ideas that aren't your own, you won't have an individual voice and it's going to fail the tests. If, however, you do your research prior and you just spit a load of information into a voice to text tool, you don't even have to concentrate about your ums, your ahs. You can have ideas which aren't brought together in a succinct way, and AI will then do that for you, bring it all together, and it will, the key point there is it will pass the tools because it will maintain your style and tone and your individualism within the words that you've put down. So journalists like to quote interesting lines, parables, sayings, and obviously if you do the voice to text AI trick, then it will maintain all of that and keep it all as well. And the final part, this is the most important part, tracking, follow-ups and conversions. This is where we as an agency win 40% of our links. Okay, this is after the pitch has been sent, because many of the publications will give you an unlinked mention or a no follow, which we can try and get converted to a do follow, or in actual fact they will incorrectly link. So they may make a mistake in the link. We won a link the other day that was linked to a different website, some random website. So you need to track where you've been mentioned. Ahrefs won't pick up unlinked mentions, so you need to have tracking that will track where you have been featured, your name or your brand name, and then you need processes to get those converted into links. The easiest way, but the most unreliable, is using the HARO platform itself. you can use Ahrefs to track your actual links. So this is a good way to find no follows, which you could reach out and get turned into do follows. But the best way is to use a free alerts tool. So Google Alerts is good, and TalkWalker. Both of these are free, and they'll give you pings every time Google picks up a brand mention or an unlinked mention or a link. But the important thing is the unlinked mention. So as you can see, this is, and you can also do manual daily searches. Okay, so you can just take your brand name, for example, Panteli, change the tools section to the past 24 hours and just run a search on your name and your business name, and then look through the SERPs. They'll normally just be, if there's likely no results, or maybe there's 2 or 3 results. If you see that your name's there, it's a new fresh result, it's been there in the last 24 hours. If it's not linked, then you know that that's probably a HARO quote that you've been given and you haven't been linked to. And then the way we get those converted, so we need to track down the journalist, and we need to reach out to them. And the best way is to find the journalists from the particular article publications. Find the journalist name, and you can use the actual website. Sometimes the website will list the journalist's email. That's rare. Go use a tool like Rocket Reach or Hunter. And failing that, we can go through the editorial corrections department of the actual publication, the actual editor. If we can find them, we can reach out to them. And another way that we've been successful is with sister sites. So sometimes we'll win a client on a link to one particular website, and we know that website's owned by another big website. If we reach out to the other big website and tell them about this unlinked mention we've had on their sister website, we've been successful in getting an unlinked mention turned into a link via that process as well. And like I said, our success rate's been 40%. 40% of our links probably come from following, tracking, and following up. This is just an example of identifying an unlinked mention in the SERPs. This was how we found the journalist's name, just by looking at the publication. This is how we found the journalist's contact information using Rocket Reach. And then this is the email that we sent to the journalist, recently quoted in this article. Thank you so much for my inclusion, but is there any way you could link to my author bio? And like I said, wait for your reply. We normally give it 3 days or so, and you have a 40% chance of them turning that into a backlink. Okay, and that's it. There we go. Just 7 minutes over.
Very, very interesting. And I guess one of the last things you mentioned regarding the success rate answers the question we had from Vivek. Thank you very much for your question, Vivek, regarding your success rate, and also how long it usually takes to get a mention or link live, which you answered earlier in the presentation. I mean, my understanding is that it can get anywhere from like a few weeks to 6 months, as you mentioned. So, but my understanding is also that like it's a lot of back and forth communications, chasing people. It's not as easy as it may sound, right? Like write a nice answer and just share it with a journalist, and they will consider you, and you will get the mention.
It can be that simple. Sometimes basically, if you send a pitch and you've been successful, then if you've been unsuccessful, then that's the end. You won't hear anything back. If you've been successful, one of 2 things will happen. 80% of the time, you will just find that you've been linked to 2-3 days, a week, 2 weeks, sometimes even months later. You will not hear a single thing back from the journalist. You'll just find from one of your alerts or from your Ahrefs report that you have in fact won that link. 20% of the time, you will get a follow-up from the journalist. These ones are a bit more hard work, but it's yours to lose by that point. If the journalist has sent you an email back saying, I liked your pitch, but I've just got a few more questions, then don't mess it up, because they've replied. So go and get that link.
Yeah. That makes sense. Do we have any other questions? If yes, now it's the time to drop them in the chat or questions box. We have one from David. What is the average success rate, as in pitches to links?
That's a good question. Like I said, the more that you hone the first parts of the presentation, so the more that you identify the correct domains to go for, the more your success rate will be. And as well, the better that you align the relevancy of the credentials of the expert with the queries, again, the higher your success rate would be. But I would say when you're starting out, expect a relatively low success rate. If you get one in 20 pitches, then I think you're doing pretty well. But that will just get better and better as time goes on. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. This is why we have a company that we're paying clients, because people don't want to do it. But if you outsource some time, maybe have a team do this for you, or do yourself. Like I said, my recommendation for the best way to get started with this is find your competitors that have where you can identify the HARO links that they've won. So if you've got a competitor that's got a press badge on their homepage, they've been featured in Yahoo, MSN, Homes and Gardens, 4, 5, 6 big websites, then often there'll be HARO links. Go and look at HARO just for a couple of days. You'll see those domains pop up. Those are the ones you should target. So go and get yourself your first 3, 4, 5 big HARO links by just targeting those 3, 4, 5 domains.
That's great. And I think from David's response that he's covered. We have one more question by Vraj. If I'm working for a marketing firm and one of our clients is a SaaS company, I don't have any expertise, then how do I pose as an expert? I guess that's a good question.
If he wants to run HARO for his client?
That's right, I guess. How to act as an expert.
If he runs the marketing agency, or his client has the marketing agency.
Yes. I guess if I'm working for a marketing firm and one of our clients is a SaaS company, I don't have any expertise, then how do I pose as an expert?
Well, if he wants to run HARO from his marketing agency for his SaaS client, he has to represent the expert from his SaaS client's company. So you have to get. That's what we do. That's exactly what we do. So if I was going to do HARO for George and Minutia, George would give me his profile. I would onboard him. George would give me his permission to pitch HARO on his behalf. George is the expert. George is the SaaS expert. So I'm pitching HARO on behalf of George as George, and with his permission to pitch, as him. And that's what George has outsourced that job to me. And he's the expert. So, it's not me pitching HARO for him. I'm pitching HARO as him. I hope that makes sense. Yeah.
During the onboarding, this is a question I have, like out of curiosity. Is there a kind of, do you get guidelines from clients? Like, keep in mind that I wouldn't want to be represented like this. I would like to be represented like that. Avoid these questions, these topics, because we may have legal implications or anything like that. I guess these are things you cover during the onboarding, yes?
Yeah, we have, for SaaS companies, we have a secondary onboarding process where if they have specific areas of topics that they wish to avoid, but you have to think HARO is a very specific sort of link. It's a homepage link, and it's normally quite broad. So we do have people reach out to us, clients, and they'll say, I'm looking for links to a specific page. We just turn these clients away. We say that's not what HARO is. These are homepage links. They might say we're looking for only to be discussing very specific topics. This is not possible with HARO. So you have to be prepared to broaden your scope. We explain this to the clients. There has to be an element of trust and an element of being comfortable with these broader topics. The key thing is you're never going to mention the client in a bad light. You never shine them in a bad light. You're never going to misrepresent them. But like I said, for the homes how stuff works link that we won for the SaaS client, it was a very basic question. What happens if a computer overheats or something? So chances of a client being, they're not going to be upset with this answer being quoted as an expert understanding computers, because they own a SaaS company, they work with computers, and there's going to be very little. It's going to not be a big chance of misinterpreting their requests, their requirements as as a brand.
Okay, I hope that covers Vraj's question, and I guess we can wrap things up. And before we go, can you share what we see in this last slide, Chris, just so people can know, and also if you can share where people can find out more and get in touch with you guys, that would be awesome.
Yeah, just go to linkifi.io. If you want to do one of our packages for us to do this for you, 5, 10 or 20 link package, use the code Minutia20 and you'll get 20% off. And then on the linkifi.io website as well, there's a little book a call link in the bottom right. If you wanted to jump on with me or my business partner Nick, book a call. If you've got any questions, queries, want to discuss anything, we're happy to chat and explain stuff in more detail on how we do it on our end.
That's great. We went a bit over time, but I think it was worth it. Chris, that was all very insightful. Thank you very much. And thank you to everyone who stayed with us until the end. Stay tuned because we have many more webinars and things coming up in the following months. And Chris, thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you, George.
Bye, everyone.